Without any evidence of fraud during the 2020 election, the president of the United States and many of his supporters are trying to raise questions about the legitimacy of the election. Our Melissa Hippolyte investigated how Virginia's results were reported, what went right, and what needs to be improved.
You know, I'm a political scientist. I want people to participate in the democratic process.
And yet, on election night, our political analyst, Dr. Bob Holsworth, was concerned. The State Board of Elections posted results from in-person voting on Election Day right away and highlighted that the vast majority of voting precincts results were in, when in actuality, the results online did not include early in-person votes and mail-in votes, which accounted for the majority of votes cast in Virginia.
And I'm really worried that people are going to get even more cynical about the political process because this has not been reported with the kind of delicacy and accuracy and nuance that I think would have been helpful.
Holsworth says the State Board of Elections should have reported the estimated percent of total votes that were in, as opposed to number of precincts that were in, because the absentee votes are included in just one precinct on the state's website called Central Absentee Precinct. Typically, the cap number is small, but not this year.
Do you think you could have done better communicating with folks that those early results that came down were not necessarily, you know, what we needed to be looking at, because there was going to be such a large dump of votes coming with that CAP vote total?
We saw that confusion. We understand it. And there's certainly, always room for improvement. We're always looking back at each election, seeing what we can do better and how we can improve the system. And we will continue to look at that.
That's Chris Piper, the commissioner of the Virginia Department of Elections. He says despite the website snafu, this election went extremely well.
We didn't report any voter intimidation on Election Day, and we've not received any credible complaints or of voter fraud. I think it was a resounding success here in the Commonwealth.
This, of course, was the first presidential election in Virginia with no excuse absentee voting. Anyone could vote in person over a 45-day period before Election Day or vote by mail.
It's unprecedented. We've never had an experience like this in Virginia before.
Henrico's registrar, Mark Coakley, said the new system worked out very well.
And how did you like having this early voting option?
I really liked it because the voters were enthusiastic. They were engaged with the process. It was their time to vote. They chose what day they wanted to vote.
But his election day wasn't without problems. Coakley's decision to try to save money and recycle a thumb drive led to 15,000 absentee ballots being missed. That is until the nonprofit Virginia Public Access Project noticed a discrepancy.
I know better now. We have funding available.
And now in Henrico and Richmond, several workers in both registrar's offices have COVID.
The result is 90% of my staff are now under quarantine until November 17th.
On top of that, the head of the city's Board of Elections, Jim Nachman, says some election officials did not report their precinct results immediately on election night.
And then we had to find the results. And so we were basically chasing down information.
And the state's election website does not correctly categorize the mayor's race to show vote totals by council district as opposed to overall popular vote.
That was an issue.
Still, Nachman says the most essential pieces of the puzzle, early voting, mail-in voting, and election day voting, went off without a hitch.
So I think everybody's very interested in making sure that we sort of hone this process because this appears to be the new normal.
He even thinks voting by mail may become the new normal in the Commonwealth.
I mean, several states have vote by mail, but they have signature recognition technology. So what they do is they have computer programs that can compare your signature that you put on your voter application with the signature that you put, I guess, on the outside envelope of your ballot when you mail it in. And so that is a guard against fraud, and that has worked well with other states. And I know that there are discussions about maybe incorporating that in Virginia.
Now, the head of Virginia's Department of Elections told me that he wants to be as transparent as possible. And if anybody has any questions about how the voting process works in Virginia, to contact his office. Working for you tonight, I'm Melissa Hippolyte for CBS 6.